I've always loved Ogryns from 40k, the ogres of the 41st millennium. But I never quite got in at this stage. But I did get in at this kind of stage in the kind of, I think it was mid-90s. And so I did buy 3 of these way back in the day. And I was so excited to see that in Deadzone 3rd edition, you can use Ogre Terminators, who happen to have a minigun with a shank bayonet, which obviously bears no relationship to an Ogryn Ripper gun. Hello, Ogryn Ripper gun. And as you'd expect, I mean, they're pretty average for shooting, slightly better at fighting, reasonable save, quite a lot of hit points. I think an average human is 2, so they're 2.5 times an average human. And the minigun looks quite fun. I mean, they are a bit on the expensive side, and someone did point out to me that they're a bit pricey and he'd never use them. Ah, yes, and of course, so I did forget to say, they form part of the GCPS faction. Basically, the Mantic Games Colonial Marines Imperial Guard type faction for their Deadzone game, which is kind of their equivalent and predated Games Workshop's Kill Team. And so on Sunday, I was looking for they talk about a kind of a quick and winnable war. Well, I was looking for a quick and easily achieved hobby project, and so I had fun painting one of my Ogre Terminators.
Now this fellow has sat in the garage for a very, very long time, and so it was a real pleasure to get him out and paint him. As everyone always points out, this 1990s era of Games Workshop miniatures just scream out a certain character that so many miniatures today don't. So he was undercoated in this leather brown because I used it for all my Soviet miniatures. And he is part of this kind of Soviet theme. And he does have a certain sense of that.
Can you see it? Well, I can.
The rippling biceps. I decided not to try and spell something out on his arm, just because it would have to be tiny. And tattoos have never really worked out for me. Try to keep it fairly simple, other than the skin, which was sort of 5 or 6 layers, mixing in a kind of pinky flesh colour with a little bit of, is it Baylor brown now, and just adding various kind of very bright elf skin tones, working my way up, every so often doing a layer of, is it Griffin Sepia, one of the old Games Workshop washes, and then the metals, kept them very simple, just 1 layer chainmail, added a bit of some kind of mithril silver type colour, whatever it's called now, to do the edges, and then just mix a lot of water into this kind of army painter rust effect, and then just dabbed it and smudged with my finger, because I thought this fellow probably would not have kept up the Brillo action on all of his metals. Red dum-dum bullets. I've forgotten how quite to do gems. I remembered how you just keep highlighting up, you only do half of the ocular glasses type thing, and then you just keep adding a little bit of white to the blue as you go up, and then you put a dot at the bottom, and then in the middle you make it darker than it was before. I just added Necron Abyss. The eyeball worked out. I don't normally paint eyeballs, but if they're big, you've got no real choice but to give them a pupil. And I thought the kind of futuristic bits of gold that he's plundered looked quite funky. And I couldn't help myself. Every time there's a large ish base. I just go wild with all of the basic materials. I know it makes it look like they're all walking through the Shire, but you know, I read Brian Cox's book, The Human Universe, and basically the chances that there are just plants all over a billion planets are very high, even if there's no real chance of intelligent life. But there you go. And in terms of scale, I mean, they were quite small, these Ogryns from back in the day. I mean, that's one of the older Space Marines. I can't be well to go to the garage and get them, but the new Primaris Space Marines are probably about that tall, i.e. a lot bigger than this fella.
В общем вагоне, в пустынном купе, ехал солдат в погонах ВВ.
Whole soldat, Bolshoi Ogre. Alright, my guy can't sing, and frankly neither can I. And I've also realised I forgot to do the blue stripes. But I think a Telnyashka is probably a bit ambitious for someone on my painting level. And there you have it. Please do comment, especially if you do actually know how to play Deadzone, Mantic Games Deadzone, and have a view on whether I've painted myself up a massive Christmas turkey. That just won't do very much for me unless I throw him at my opponent, because he is a solid piece of metal, and it's probably lead actually, given that he was made in the early 90s. So subscribe as well, perhaps, and you'll see me report back on how he does in battle and whether I had to actually descend into chucking him at my opponent to win a game. I mean, I don't win very often, so I'll do anything. Anyway, have a great day.